Oh, you want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim?
Cross your eyes and scream, man. Scream for your life.
Welcome, fellow Scream Things. I'm Jenica Olin. This is my 26th episode, and for the month of May, I'm exploring momsters, mothers in horror. This weekend is Mother's Day, and in this episode, my guest is mi madre. Society paints motherhood as the purest form of love. Selfless, gentle, endlessly giving, mothers are expected to be perfect nurturers, the emotional anchors of the family, the ones who sacrifice without question and love without limit. But horror has always known better. In the movie I'm covering today, grief can hollow a person out, and when it festers, when betrayal poisons it, it becomes something else, something unrelenting. Tonight, we're diving into the story of a woman pushed past the edge, a mother whose pain curdled into rage and never died. Her legend stalks the night like a warning wrapped in a wail, echoing through alleyways, drowning in rivers, scratching at windows. This isn't your average ghost story. This is about justice twisted by sorrow. If you're new here, each episode will have an intro, brief synopsis of the movie, an analysis of the film, and then I get into the true horrors of it all. I'm a huge true crime fan, and I like to make connections between the true horrors that inspire our darkest imagination. The truth is, the stuff on screen is way tamer than the true horrors that take place every day. Spoiler alert, I've made it my job to spoil the shit out of this movie. Today, I'll be covering the 2019 film, The Curse of La Llorona, directed by Michael Chavez, written by Mickey Daughtry and Tobias Laconis, starring Linda Cardellini, also known as Velma from Scooby-Doo, Raymond Cruz, our deflocked priest, and Patricia Velasquez, best known for her role in The Mummy. The estimated budget was $9 million, and the estimated gross worldwide was $123 million. The tagline for this film is, "She wants your children." Some quick trivia about this film. The film makes several references to the Conjuring film. One example is the scene where brothers Carlos and Tomas are haunted by La Llorona. One of the brothers looks to the corner of the room near the doorway, similar to when Christian first sees Bathsheba in her bedroom in The Conjuring. The other brother then sleepwalks after being influenced by La Llorona. Bathsheba had a similar effect on the children in The Conjuring. Anna's daughter Sam carries a doll with her throughout the film. While it's not a Raggedy Ann doll, it does look similar to the iconic toy. The Annabelle doll was a Raggedy Ann doll in real life. Father Perez, who helps guide Anna in this film, also appeared in the first standalone Annabelle 2014 film. Marisol Rodriguez originally auditioned to play the role of Patricia. The makeup process to transform Ramirez into La Llorona took about 3 hours. The title of the film roughly translates to The Curse of the Weeping Woman. Tony Armendola, who portrays Father Perez in Annabelle, reprises this same role in this film. Let's set the scene with a synopsis of the movie.
Trisha, I'm very sorry about your loss.
It's your fault!
I can't even imagine how you must feel.
Your children
Rinsing.
are safe now. But have they heard her crying? Have they felt the sting of her tears? They will. And she will come for them. Who? La Llorona.
Two young boys present their mother with a pendant, which she says she will cherish forever. She and her husband hold hands with their sons and dance, until the youngest boy opens his eyes, seeing that everyone is gone. He walks around calling for his mother and brother, only to find the woman drowning his brother in the river. The little boy runs, only to be grabbed by his mother and taken to the river as well. Fast forward to Los Angeles, 1973. Social worker Anna Garcia is getting her kids, Chris and Sam, ready for school. At work, Anna overhears her boss ask coworker Donna to check on the home of Patricia Alvarez, a mother with 2 boys, Tomas and Carlos. Anna is their caseworker, and she hears that the boys have been missing from school. Anna convinces her boss to let her go check on them since she knows them more personally. Anna goes to the Alvarez home with Officer Carlos. Patricia tries to keep them from entering, but she's forced to let them in. Patricia mentions that she has been hearing the sounds of a woman crying. Anna goes by a closet door where she realizes the boys are being kept, but Patricia attacks Anna in an attempt to keep them from opening the door. Carlos pulls Patricia off Anna, and she opens the door to find Tomas and Carlos inside. They are brought to a nearby hospital where they have burn marks on their wrists. At the home, Anna tries to spend time with her kids. She is a widow, as her husband was killed in the line of duty, and it's been hard on her. Later that night, Carlos is woken by what sounds like a woman sobbing. He tries to wake up Tomas, but he doesn't hear. A guard checks in on them, and when he leaves, Tomas is out of bed. Carlos follows him outside into the hallway. Tomas turns around and points to something in the mirror. When Carlos turns around, he sees tears dripping onto the floor before he looks up and is face to face with Llorona. Anna is called by Detective Cooper to go to the hospital, leaving Chris and Sam in the car. Tomas and Carlos's bodies were found in the river. Patricia is there, wailing in despair and blaming Anna for causing her children's death, as she was trying to protect them from Llorona. Meanwhile, Chris walks out of the car while Sam is asleep. He goes over to check on the scene until he hears the sound of Llorona crying. She sees him and mutters in Spanish about her children and wanting to take them. She emerges from the shadows and grabs Chris's arm, burning him. He runs back to the car and wakes Sam up. The next day, Anna walks by the Alvarez home and sees people engaging in a sort of ritualistic cleansing to ward off bad spirits. She meets Father Perez, who explains to Anna what's going on. She asks him about Llorona, and Perez explains her backstory. She was considered the most beautiful woman in her village, and she met a rancher who rode into town and fell in love with her. They had 2 sons and lived happily until she caught him with a younger woman. In her rage, she sought to spite him by killing their son, but after realizing what she had done, she was so consumed with grief and guilt that she drowned herself as well. Because she killed herself, she was barred from entering the afterlife.
So it's a folktale.
To some.
Sam walks outside by the pool with her transparent umbrella as the wind blows. When she opens it, she catches a glimpse of Llorona. The wind blows the umbrella out of Sam's hands and lands in the pool. When she reaches for it, Llorona appears and grabs her arm, burning her as well. Anna goes to talk to Patricia in prison. She still angrily believes that Anna caused her boy's death. Patricia asks Anna if they've heard Llorona crying, and if they felt the sting of her tears. She admits that she didn't pray to God for the salvation of her boys, but she prayed to Llorona to take Anna's kids in exchange for her own. Cooper and Donna show up to Anna's house that night when they suspect something is up with the kids, especially with the burns on their arms. The kids lie and say that they fell, After they leave, Anna goes to put the kids to bed. She hears a noise in the darkness and also sees Llorona, causing her to scream.
Kids, wake up! Open the door! Open the door!
The kids enter the room after she disappears, and Anna invites the kids to sleep in her room. Later, Anna asks Chris about what has been happening. He tells her he heard Llorona in Sam's room. Upstairs, Sam is taking a bath when Llorona attempts to drown her. Anna and Chris hear the commotion and go to save her. As they pull Sam out of the tub, Llorona grabs Anna's arm and burns her too, as Anna sees her horrible face with her bloody tears. Anna goes to the church to ask Perez for help. He says he did not believe in supernatural until his run-in with a certain doll, but he knows of a former priest named Rafael Olvera that can help. Anna brings the kids to Rafael's shop to ask for help. Although he appears not interested, he agrees when Sam asks for his help. Rafael goes to their house and uses eggs to determine that there is indeed a powerful evil entity haunting them. It would not matter where they go, as Llorona would follow them. Rafael stays with the family all night as they try to find a way to keep Llorona out. He shows Anna that he had located Llorona's tears to use as anti-venom. She then appears and throws Anna against the wall before going after Chris and Sam. As Llorona pulls Chris out of the door, Rafael grabs him and throws her own tears back at her to burn her and send her out the door. He then spreads seed from a special tree across the doorway to prevent Llorona from re-entering. As they run to the back, Sam realizes she left her doll outside. She tries to reach for it without stepping foot outside the house and without breaking the seed line. As she pulls the doll back inside, the doll breaks the line, and Llorona pulls her outside. Anna realizes Sam is in danger of being drowned in their pool. She jumps to get Sam, but Llorona starts attacking her. Rafael then blesses the pool to turn the water holy and force Llorona out of there.
Bendito seas tú, Señor, Dios Todopoderoso. Ven a bendecirnos con Jesucristo, el agua bendita de nuestra salvación. Danos a nosotros fuerza con esta agua bendita. Amen.
Anna emerges with Sam and Llorona's pendant. A pounding sound is heard at the door. Patricia shows up with a gun, hell-bent on delivering Anna's kids to the demon. Llorona reappears in the house, so Chris and Sam run to the attic to hide. Their attempt to keep her out fails, and she makes her way upstairs. Chris pulls out the pendant that he took from his mom and shows it to her. For a moment, she appears as her former human self and approaches Chris and Sam. Sam then accidentally unveils a mirror, causing Llorona to see her hideous demonic reflection and wail. Rafael attempts to hold her off with the cross, but she throws him back. Anna runs to protect her kids, and as Llorona approaches, Rafael throws Anna the cross. She uses it to impale Llorona through the chest, causing the evil spirit to finally be destroyed. In the morning, Rafael bids the family farewell. As Chris and Sam run back to the house to play, Anna turns around and sees what looks like a puddle of tears on the sidewalk. Now it's time to talk horror, and today my guest is my own madre, Hilda.
Thank you, Jenica.
So we watched La Llorona. I know I'm saying that wrong. How do you pronounce it, my Hispanic mother?
La Llorona.
La Llorona. Okay, now I got it, I think. We watched this movie yesterday, and it's got a lot of heavy themes. It's a folklore story that's been passed down for many generations, and it's a story about a mother who in a jealous rage because her husband cheats on her, she ends up killing her two sons, drowning them. And then when she kind of snaps out of her breakdown, she realizes what she's done, and then she ends up drowning herself. And so now she's going around and she's trying to find her children. She's trying to replace her children with other people's children, but she keeps reenacting the trauma that happened. So we're going to get into the themes of this movie, but I know that when it came to the actual folklore, we have folklore for a reason. It's there to teach a lesson, or it's a cautionary tale for children most of the time. And you said that there was a story similar to this that you were told growing up.
Yes, as a family of true Puerto Ricans, that culture tends to use fear tactics to control their children. So if you do this, this is going to happen. La Llorona or La Huelva, whatever they want to call it, is going to get you when you're sleeping. So that creates ghosts underneath your beds, in your closet, and fear. So you will not act up. So it's always been a form of control. And it is still alive in that culture. Any Hispanic culture, usually even the Haitian culture, has traditions like this that they follow because they're very heavily steeped in spiritualism and spiritism and mysticism, because it's part of their culture and it gets passed down from generation to generation. But like in this movie, I found it particularly interesting that the main reason why this entity was able to come back and get these children was because the people actually kept that alive. But when she realized that these children were not her children and she was trying to basically bring them back, she realized that's not my child. Now I'm going to kill it because it's not my child. And the revenge aspect came in when her husband cheated on her and she wanted to make him pay the ultimate price, not to kill him, but to kill him every day, knowing that the true purpose for his living was his children. So she wanted to take away his reason for living. That actually helps you to see the mindset of someone who's desperate enough to inflict that much pain on another human being that they would take the life of their own children and themselves. So that has some real connotations to mental health issues today and how people can snap and kill their children and blame it on their significant other or whoever caused that emotional break in them. But it's also a reminder that the mind is very fragile and can easily fracture.
Mm-hmm. I do like that you made the point about the pain and the fact that incidents like these where there's a lot of grief and a lot of trauma, it can cause someone to do things that they normally wouldn't do. Like La Llorona, Llorona. Okay. She loved her children very much, obviously, and she suffered a mental break. So there's a lot of mental health in this. And actually, one of the things about this is the time period in which this incident took place. There was a lot of poverty, and there's a lot of history of, like, there was a dictatorship at that time, is what I'm seeing when I do my research. When you have these like genocide, war crimes, all this kind of stuff, it ends up not manifesting, but it ends up causing other things to happen because people are under immense stress and their hope is taken away. It's interesting because it's kind of a family annihilator story, but she doesn't kill the husband. And you don't see too many stories of women killing their children, but it does happen quite a bit in society and in history, especially when there's a lot of financial hardship. Children can be the first ones that need to go. When talking about the traditions of like the folklore and passing down these stories to your kids, I can't remember a story that you would tell. Like, I don't remember you telling us any kind of story about a monster coming to get us.
It's only because I wanted to break the cycle. Because we were raised, all of us, if you talk to any of my siblings, we always had supernatural encounters. We always attributed it to the house we lived in, but actually it was my parent, my mother, that invited them and attached to her. But it was a family tradition to use spirits, and it started from my grandmother. The stories that I was told by my cousins, because I never experienced what they experienced because I wasn't around my grandmother. My mother tried to break some of that by not letting us be around my grandparents, especially my grandmother. But the stories my cousins would tell would send chills up my spine. Like one of my cousins told me that my grandmother could on demand make a broom walk, and he saw it. So the fear they had of grandma wasn't imaginary. If you saw a broom walking toward you and your grandmother said, if you do this, I'm going to do that, believe me, you know that grandma is not bluffing. If grandma said, eat all your food, you ate all your food.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't talk back.
Yeah.
The fear factor was real. Now, to some extent, I believe my mother tried to break that, but my mother still used it for her own means. So it followed us. So everywhere we went, rocking chairs would rock on their own. We would see apparitions. And one story that was very, very abundantly clear to me that I don't remember, but my sister Myrna does, was there was a spirit representing me, looking just like me, because she would wake me up every night to go to the bathroom. She was afraid because I never had fear of them, but she did. I wouldn't go to the bathroom with her that one night, and she saw me at the end of the hall, taking my finger, waving, telling her to come. And my sister looked back, saw I was in bed. That wasn't me. That was a spirit pretending to be me. She ran right back into that room, did not go to the bathroom. To this day, my sister's scared to death of rocking chairs and is scared to death of the spirit world. And how parents control generations can stop with the next generation. Because I know none of my children have ever used fear tactics on their children. I pretty much decided to stop that. But it was passed down as far as from when I hear from my cousins, they stopped it too. They didn't use fear tactics like that. But my grandmother and her abilities were very real.
So stories like La Llorona could eventually start to dissipate. It's already, I think, a little less prevalent, but we still talk about these stories and these characters because they do have cultural significance and historical significance. So that I find that part of it very interesting. I will say, growing up with you as the mother, I don't remember you using this kind of thing as a scare tactic, but you definitely, like, I felt like you were definitely afraid of it, these kinds of things.
I wouldn't say I was afraid of it, because you know that as you guys were growing up, all I watched was supernatural films. A lot of it, like The Exorcist and movies that would scare the bejeebus out of most people and not expose their children. Maybe I wasn't a good role model that way, because probably caused you to become the horror queen. I did have dolls that scared the crap out of all of you.
You did. I hated those fucking dolls.
And the clowns. I know that was a big trigger for you guys, so basically
that was a trigger from Monique. The clowns were a trigger from Monique.
I got rid of
But you had those, like, almost like Phantom of the Opera masks all over the walls. I hated those things.
Again.
So creepy.
That was part of my family history that I kept alive through these objects, because not all of my siblings felt that way. They just wanted them gone, never looked at it again. But me, I was never afraid of them or what the connotations would be. So it was part of my childhood, and I gravitated toward it, and I was never afraid, but still, it was not a healthy thing to attach to, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you definitely, there was definitely a belief in the household of these things. And then, so there are definitely trinkets and things that could be associated with the darker side or evil entities. And you definitely didn't shy away from talking about those things. And whether or not you used the actual story of Llorona, you definitely scared the shit out of us. And you watched horror movies. I was watching horror movies when I was like 5.
I say like 3.
Okay, yeah, 3. Okay, you're not making a case for yourself. There was definitely a fear within the household of these dark entities and of dark spirits, and there was a feeling of a dark entity being around us. I mean, there were stories of hauntings and possessed items and all kinds of things. So you scared us. Well, I'll just say that.
Not intentional. It's part of I would say, my way of addressing my own issues as a kid, and not shying away from the fear. So making sure that it didn't follow me as a fear tactic, but something to show hey, you're not going to control me in my adult life. Because I really wasn't afraid of them when I was a kid either. I would be more intrigued by them. But there were times where those entities that were in the houses, they did scare me, but only when it got too close. But at least I didn't go and invite them into the house by practicing the things that my grandmother used to practice, inviting them into the house through rituals such as brujeria, which is a very big part of the Spanish culture. Brujeria is very, very real. And in the Spanish culture, you will see candles burning 24/7 in some rooms. And you know, when you see something like that, there is something spiritual going on.
Yeah. No, I think, that is part of the generational trauma of it all. The story of Llorona is a story about the past and atrocities from the past and how they can haunt individuals and families and impact their lives in the present day. Kind of feeds into that. Just in this story, she ends up being the vehicle to explore the lingering effects of historical trauma. Yeah, so it's really interesting, and it's quite a sad story, I would say.
What's more compelling here There's 3 things that I got out of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, the past repeats itself through generational curses, if you allow it.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is to become a generational curse breaker by not allowing it to become part of your family tradition. Number 2, I learned that from watching this movie, it didn't bring back bad memories per se, but it did help me to appreciate the power of the spiritual world. It's very real. And do not mess with its components, because if you try, the ramifications will affect you and your children. So don't use their powers. Number 3, the most important thing I got out of it is the emotional and the psychological aspect of using trauma to hurt somebody else.
Yeah. I would say when it comes to part of that, you don't listen to yourself because you still play with the dark side of things. You still tap into that part of yourself on a daily basis.
There's a big difference now. I don't have children at home. This is my time to explore myself and to do what I want to do. I don't have little kids or teenagers even. I would never do that when you guys were in my house. As a matter of fact, I was very religious. Very religious, to the point of...
You wouldn't let me. I wasn't supposed to read Harry Potter.
Exactly. You weren't even supposed to watch really Disney movies because it had magic in it. Based on my religious convictions at that time, which lasted for almost 20 years. I could say maybe I went the other way now, because...
I'd say, yes, you went the entire other way.
Because now I do know that I have a gift and I have an intuition, and I'm using those skills. I'm actually going to practice shamanism. I'm going to take a course with a shaman that I very much esteem. Her abilities have intrigued me, and I am going to tap into that, but not to create any kind of family curses or to create any kind of fear, but because I feel like this is part of who I am. I'm a very spiritual person, and I don't mean it in a religious way. I can read energies and feel energies, and I want to tap into that. And there's nobody in my house that will be afraid of it, and if you are, leave, because it's my home and I'm on my own.
Yeah, I mean, you are a grown woman. You've raised many children. You've raised 4 children and 2 stepchildren, and you have the right to go and explore whatever you want to explore. But yeah, I'm glad you didn't do that shit in the house when I was little. But you definitely, I don't know, I felt like there was more a fear of it. There was an embracing of it, but also a fear of it. You've always been a very interesting character in the way of the religion versus the spiritual world and demons and entities and things like that, because you've always embraced both at the same time. And so it's very bipolar almost of you.
I'm glad you brought that out, because I was always aware that there was both. Most people, even when they're religious, they'll deny one and accept the other. They both go hand in hand. You have good and bad. In every aspect of our life, there's a good and bad. And there's an angel and there's demons. There's good spirits, there's bad spirits. There's good intentions, bad intentions. What you do with it is what makes a difference. Now, as far as me being self-aware enough, when I was a young mother, because I was, at least I used common sense to not do the things and perform the same kind of rituals that were performed throughout my generations, my grandparents, my mother. They all seem to follow that pattern of the brujeria and the power. I didn't bring that into the house, but it was always something that was always in the forefront of my mind. So I brought it to life by watching horror movies, which is probably what created you.
Oh, yes. So another theme in here is going to be the parental responsibility in family dynamics. Interesting enough, in this story, we have the mom that is a social worker, and her husband passed away in this story. So instead of the children being the thing that dies, it's the opposite. The husband is the one who is dead in her storyline. There are a lot of times she has to protect her children from Llorona. Did I say that right? Okay, I'm trying. And I don't think she always does a good job of it. Sometimes she was pissing me off in certain moments. Like, once you know that there's a spirit, why are you leaving those kids alone at all? Why?
She didn't believe it in the beginning. She didn't believe. Remember, it all started as a social worker. She took children away from a mother that was protecting her children, actually locked them away in a closet with a lock and key to keep them from being attacked by Llorona. Anyway, what happened to her was actually a revenge from the mother that her children were killed because La Llorona did find them and kill them. So she actually became a catalyst to a human form of revenge by her going after that woman personally and praying to La Llorona to go after this woman and her children. See, this woman never experienced supernatural, and she was not of that culture. So lots of times you breathe life into things that do not need to be having that energy given to it, but you believe in it subconsciously. So this woman was not of Mexican descent or Hispanic descent and did not know of those kinds of rituals and those types of dynamics that even existed in human society. So for this woman, it was just a mother that was abusive. So that turned on her. It's also good if you are in a social worker field to know what these cultures do and teach so that you don't introduce trauma to children that are being held in a superstitious realm from their parents. It's very real. So that woman actually became the woman that caused her to have that curse put on her. How many times do people really wish harm on other people and probably would even go put a spell on somebody because of harm that was caused to them, directly or indirectly? You got to remember, there's good and bad. Some people just want to think of only the good, but there's both.
Yeah, so it is interesting, in the beginning of this story, the two different, even between not just the ghost spirit, but the two different moms and their relationships to their kids. So both of them are single moms. We don't know why the other mother is a single mom, but she goes into her house and there's obviously a lot of spiritual symbols and there are candles everywhere, and it's very shocking to Anna, the social worker, when she goes into the home and she doesn't understand what's going on, so she automatically thinks that it is child abuse. There is some sort of like she's there because of truancy. The kids haven't been going to school. She sees the lock on the mom's, like her necklace, and she takes it and she gets the kids out, and the kids tell her she's gonna come get us, and Anna's like, no one's gonna come get you, I've got you, I'm gonna protect you. So there's this, I almost see this as a symbolic of a false sense of security that we have in the system that's at place right now. I think there is something to it, but it's very complicated and convoluted. and I'm probably just reaching a little bit too hard into that. But there is something with cultures and with cultural beliefs and other people coming in and putting their own cultural beliefs and systems on top of another person.
Yeah, and that's where ignorance comes in. You have to be a person that's well versed. When you're dealing with certain cultures, such as Hispanic cultures, Haitian cultures, even Arabic cultures, every culture has their own way of looking at things. And you have to remember that this is passed down generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there is that generation that breaks all of that by changing the way they program. I'm going to say program. And programming, I'm going to include even TV, because that's why it's called programming. Watch what you put in your mind, even TV, because it programs your neurological system one way or another.
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, everything that we put into our consciousness is going to inform the way who we are. And, you know, it's pretty basic stuff, but it also, you know, what we consume matters. I do find it interesting how the other mom, the one that had her kids taken away, how she ends up showing up at the end of the movie. And she ends up taking the form of La Llorona, trying to grab the kids and saying, I'm gonna take them. I'm gonna, you know, she's basically using them as a sacrifice to try to get her own kids back. But it was very symbolic of the pain and trauma of losing and the grief of losing a child.
Well, if you really think about it, revenge is taught in programming. So, and the grief that a mother would feel over losing her children, especially to a social worker and taking the children away. I mean, what did she have left to live for? There was nothing left for her. So, what do you do when somebody has nothing left to lose? Well, they have no fear of not even their own life being ended. They prefer to die. They don't have their children anymore. She tried hard to protect her children. So now she even told her, I'm going to take and replace, I want my kids brought back. I'm going to kill your kids to get my kids back. Again, following the tradition that La Llorona thought she was going to get her kids back, and then realizing, those are not my kids, and they're not coming back, so I'm going to kill them. It's just twisted thinking.
So most ghosts that we see are vengeful spirits, and you're talking about revenge, but Llorona, she's not really revenge, she's grief. She's both, but she's more grief. Her intention of being there, she has revenge in her. She had revenge in the initial act of killing her children when she had a psychotic break. But her coming back is purely grief and then anger when she realizes that she can't fix that grief with whoever she has. She cries. I wanted to talk about her tears for a second because she has the acid tears. There were a few different symbols. So there were the acid tears, there was the tree thing, there was a certain kind of tree, and the wood pieces could be used to keep her out. And that was the only witness to her act of killing her children, was the certain type of tree. That's going to be her shame. That tree is going to be the shame that she feels, and it traps her, it keeps her away.
Remember, he kills her with a wooden cross.
But it was a wooden cross made out of the same type of tree. What was that fucking tree? It's the fire tree.
Yeah.
So the fire tree plays a crucial role in the warding off of Llorona. And that tree is seen in the opening scene of the movie, and you see the red blossoms. And I wasn't really sure why those red blossoms were because the color, the saturated color in the opening scene, it's very prominent, those red blossoms. And it resembles fire. And the fire tree is a sacred tree. And it's the only witness to her tragic act of drowning her children. So the crucifix is made from the fire tree's wood. He has shavings of the fire tree to keep her out. They use ashes as well from the tree. You said they were coffee grounds. I don't think they were coffee grounds. I think they were ashes from the tree.
Well, typically they use elements of the earth to ward off spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Like salt, sea salt,
Mm-hmm.
that's used, and then the sage.
Mm-hmm.
As you saw him using sage during a ceremony in a funeral to keep the spirits, to cleanse the energy pretty much. And there are different sages for different types of energies. And remember, the elements are earth elements. They're usually wood from trees. And they're always going to be like Banto de Salo. It's the tree that they burn to get rid of spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that really doesn't work. That's just mental. It's not strong enough to get rid of a spirit. Sorry, spirits have been around since the beginning of time. A little burning of a piece of wood is not going to make them go away. It's actually your opinion of it and how you let it control you through fear that makes them go away. Fear feeds them, and they come in stages, different stages. And as your fear feeds them, they stay around. Burning of these scents are not going to keep them away. It's just a false sense of security, like you said earlier.
I do. I mean, pretty much you have every element almost. So there's like the element of water. She uses water. And water is significant in a few different ways. Water is life. And water has been passed down. The same water that we have today is the same water that was here when the dinosaurs were here. It takes different forms and it cycles and it comes back. So we don't get more water. We cycle the same resources again and again. So the same water that we have here is the same water that was for millennia, has been here. Water is everywhere, and water carries memories. A lot of people use water in significance for that kind of thing. And water carries memories because water is cycled. Water is the site of where the violence happens. And in Alma's hands, water becomes both a healing force and a final reckoning. So it's just it's interesting that they're using water. It is a sign of grief, right? So crying, tears, all this stuff.
Water was the killing instrument. So that's why it's prevalent to have that water show up right before a killing.
Yeah.
That was a weapon of choice. And that was also the fear. Knowing that the water was there, you knew something was going to happen to end your life through that water. Even a little puddle of water you can drown in.
Yeah.
So it was enough water to put.
If you're an infant.
Even as an adult. If you put your head
in
the toilet. Or you have a heart attack. Yeah, you can drown in that water.
Yes, you can drown in a puddle. Well, you know what's interesting? The original... So there are a few different stories of La Llorona and what it means for the culture. And I mean, so pretty much she started in Mexican culture and most of her lore comes from there, but other cultures also have different variations of her. When people tell the story, it has to do with water and warning kids to not go by the water without them. Because if they do, La Llorona is going to come and get you, and she's going to drown you. And that has to do with safety, because kids drown in water all the time. So it's a way to scare your kids from danger. And especially particularly the focus was going near water at night because a lot of kids would drown at night. And I'm sure, right, there are all kinds of predators near water. And if a kid can't swim, all these things. These cautionary tales are a way to keep children safe by scaring them.
Just like any other scare tactic, sometimes it's good for good. It's used for good or bad. So it's both. It just depends on how you want to use it.
There's a lot of stuff with faith as well. And faith being broken. There's like corruption within the Catholic symbolism. So she realizes, you know, the Catholic Church isn't going to be there to help her. She has to go an alternative route.
Who was a former Catholic priest that was renounced because of his practices of using rituals to break curses and to ward off evil spirits. So if you think about it, every time you watch these horror films, you see a priest come in, and it's movies like The Exorcist and movies like Amityville Horror. Well, what happens to these priests? Well, if you think about it, the ones that do not get attacked by these spirits are people that don't fear them. But even the Catholic priests fear them.
I will say when it came to the kids and protecting the kids and things like that, even when her daughter, like, she wasn't listening to her kids. She, like, her daughter tells her she wants the doll. She's like, where's my doll? And instead of helping her daughter or saying we'll find her later, she just like brushes her off. And I know she's super stressed and all these things, but the little girl lets the spirit back in because she's trying to find her doll. And she sees it outside and she breaks the barrier that was put there. So, I mean, and that is very symbolic of kind of brushing the children off and not listening to the child who is letting you know their needs. And she's very scared in that moment, and that's her comfort. Her doll, that doll was with her the entire movie. So I felt like that was a very significant scene.
I would say the one thing that I would bring out is psychological attachments do need to be admonished. That was the psychological attachment, that doll. But the mother could not understand at the time because she had her own psychological issues of saving her children, which that doll had no relevance in her survival of saving her children. But in actuality, she did save her children because she took La Llorona's necklace from her, which took away a lot of her power. Because remember, objects such as jewelry does have spiritual connotations and energy attached to it, and took a lot of her energy away. And the little boy was smart enough to use that, and he took it into the attic to show her, I have your power in your hand, in my hand, and which did keep her at bay for a bit, because it wasn't until the priest came with the wooden cross and the other mother shot him because she didn't want those children to be saved. And then the mother took the cross and stabbed her. And it didn't matter where you stabbed her because it was basically a sacred object.
Well, I think she does stab her in the heart, which is significant because
I didn't see whether she stabbed her, but
she stabbed her in the chest. It looked like in the heart. It was almost like she staked her. It was almost like a vampire is how I kind of saw that scene. It was very much like staking her in the heart. And that, I mean, that's where her grief is held. We put a lot of significance on the heart. She didn't stab her in the stomach. She didn't stab her she stabbed her in the heart.
So again, it shows the relevance of the sacred item. So just like jewelry, if you buy something that has somebody's energy attached to it, such as a wedding ring, a necklace, even a mirror holds energy. You got to be careful because all that energy is residual, and demons do know how to attach to history, as history is brought to life through folklores. They know how to feed fears.
We haven't really talked too much about rituals. Rituals are extremely important in this film when it comes to the ritualistic cleansing to ward off bad spirits, and rituals just being used as protection. And rituals are important to whether your ritual is a spiritual ritual or whether it's the coffee that you make every single morning. Rituals are important to humanity. Rituals are at the core of humanity. Do you agree with that?
Rituals are behaviors that are learned, and that's what you have to take. These are learned behaviors that get fed from generation to generation. A good example, which is a good example of a good ritual, is your coffee in the morning. If you don't have your coffee, it sets your tone for the day. You're irritable, angry, anybody gets in the way, watch out. So that's a good ritual that can be bad because it makes somebody either calm or angry if you don't have that coffee. But when the rituals include spiritual significance, the weight is 1,000 times.
As you were talking to, it made me think about all the times that Llorona, when she saw herself in a mirror, the mirror broke. And so I thought that was pretty significant.
The mirror broke because it was a symbol. Again, remember I was telling you how mirrors capture spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And some societies, they won't even have mirrors in their house.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of mirrors. And if you look at the Amish do not even have faces on their dolls. Their dolls are just blank faces. Why?
I did not know that, and that is super creepy. I hate that.
Okay, but the Amish do not. They believe that if you put eyes and a mouth on a doll, they can capture your soul. So the Amish do not. If you look at an Amish doll, they will never have a face.
I'm going to look up an Amish doll right now.
Is because she cannot.
They do have no faces.
Yes,
They're
they
so creepy.
No
I hate it. I hate it.
And that's part of, they know that spirits can travel through even a button knife. It's a superstition. But it's very much alive in the Amish community.
So if you ever find a faceless doll, that's an Amish doll. This movie is very quiet for a horror movie. There are times where there is screaming when the mom, Anna, is locked away. She is screaming. But most of the time, even the traumatic scenes are quiet. They're muffled by water. Like when the little girl is being drowned in the bathtub, the absence of sound was what was alarming to the mom when she called on her. The trauma in La Llorona. Did I say that right? Llorona. What? Okay, fine. Okay, you're my mother. You didn't teach me Spanish. You know, you used Spanish as a weapon, and you tried to talk shit behind my back using Spanish. And then I started picking up on it, and I would know what you were saying, but I still didn't know how to speak it. So it's your fault that I don't know Spanish, that I don't speak Spanish.
Absolutely 100% guilty.
Blame you.
Well, my take on that film as I wrap up my comments is try to be a generational curse breaker. Do not pass on the sins of your parents and grandparents, and every curse breaker that does this breaks the superstition, breaks the folklore, and breaks rituals. And that's most important, because the rituals that we should include in our family life is togetherness, eating together. We don't do that.
I still eat together at this time. You're at my dining room table right now. I eat dinner. I cook dinner and eat dinner here.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about in general. Most people are on their cell phones even when they're out eating.
The only other thing that I would say is that, breaking generational trauma, but you don't break it by ignoring it. So when they ignore it in the movie too, like we were just saying, the silence is ignoring. And that only feeds it. because you have to be aware of what happened in the past to be able to change the future. There is historical injustice in this, and I am going to be getting into that with a true crime. And there is like an outcry for the reckoning of genocide and war crimes. And we're kind of, right now, we're in a cycle of repeating history again. And I know that you're like, don't get political on your podcast, but it's my podcast, okay? And I will get political if I want to get political because it is connected, okay?
This is where I say goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed being here.
Always going to be something very bonding, spending time with you. I don't get to come out very often, but I'm glad I did.
Yes, I'm glad you came. You saw Angie play her show yesterday. We went and got lunch, and we got to watch this movie together. It was either this or Serial Mom, and this one just seemed more appropriate with everything that you're into.
She was known for her beauty. The most beautiful woman in that part of Mexico. Then one day, a rich and handsome ranchero rode into her village. She set her sights on him. The marriage was splendid. They had 2 beautiful children whom they treasured. But then, after a time, she discovered him in the arms of a younger woman.
Now it's time for the true horrors of it all. For the true horror segment, we're looking beyond the veil, into the real-life cases where myth and reality collide, where the pain of motherhood curdles into tragedy. Let's start with the legend. Llorona's story has been whispered for centuries across Latin America, especially in Mexico, with countless versions passing down through generations. But at its core, it's always the same. A woman drowns her children and spends eternity searching for them. The most well-known version goes like this. A beautiful woman, often named Maria, falls in love with a wealthy man. They have children, but over time, he grows distant. One day, she sees him with another woman, and in a fit of grief and rage, she drowns her children in a river. When she realizes what she's done, she's overcome with guilt and either drowns herself or is cursed to roam the earth forever, weeping for her children she lost. Her cry, "Ay, mis hijos," "Oh, my children," is said to echo through the night. If you hear it, you're already too close. The legend has pre-colonial roots and Aztec influence. Before colonization, there were already stories in Mesoamerican cultures of mourning, vengeful female spirits. The Aztecs told of a goddess named Cihuacoatl, who appeared in white, weeping and warning of doom. A possible precursor for Llorona, she was also associated with death and childbirth, and was one of the omens that supposedly foretold the Spanish conquest. So in many ways, Llorona represents the aftermath of conquest, colonization, and cultural loss. After the Spanish arrived, the legend took on new forms. Some say Llorona is a manifestation of colonial guilt, tied to the violent mixing of indigenous and Spanish bloodlines. In that telling, she's not just a grieving mother, she's a symbol of betrayal, identity crisis, and a horror of assimilation. Her story has become a cautionary tale used to control behavior in children. Don't stay out too late. Don't talk to strangers. Don't misbehave, or Llorona will come for you. So she went from being an oral legend to pop culture. Over time, Llorona moved from whispered bedtime stories into books, songs, films, and television. But she never lost her edge. She still haunts rivers, dreams, and memories. She's not just a ghost, she's grief that refuses to die, a spirit born from betrayal, drowning in sorrow, forever searching, forever lost. She's also become a symbol of missing children and femicide. In parts of Latin America, Llorona is invoked during protests and vigils for missing or murdered children and women, especially in places like Ciudad Juárez, where the femicide crisis has left thousands grieving. Her weeping becomes symbolic of a nation's mourning and rage. She's not just looking for her kids, she's crying for all the lost girls. So now I'm going to get into two specific stories of women who did drown their children and were looked at as though they were this folklore demonic figure. I'm going to briefly share two stories where this was the case. Juana Leija, a mother of 7 living in fear, trapped in an abusive marriage. One desperate morning, Juana took her children to the Buffalo Bayou. One by one, she tried to drown them, herself included. 2 died, the rest survived. And so did she. She was arrested, charged with murder, and labeled a monster. But some called her something else. Llorona in the flesh. Juana's story wasn't born of evil. It was born from pain, from a system that didn't protect her, from a silence so loud it drowned her voice. Then 35 years later, another name burned across the headlines. Andrea Yates. This is a name that in America we have heard many times. You are probably familiar with this case of Andrea Yates, a Texas mother, 5 children, postpartum psychosis so severe it twisted her reality, and then one morning she filled the bathtub. One by one, she drowned all 5. People didn't just ask how, they asked why. How could a mother, a devoted, educated, religious woman, do something so unspeakable? In her trial, the courtroom was heavy with judgment, but in the public's imagination, she became another version of Llorona, a woman unraveling under the weight of motherhood and mental illness. But the true horror? That kind of grief, that kind of madness, it's real, and it walks among us. These women weren't evil spirits. They were human, hurt, isolated, forgotten, and in that silence, monsters were born, not of folklore, but of neglect. I'm not making excuses for these mothers who killed their children. This segment is to merely empathize with the suffering of others, because life is full of suffering and horrible things happen every day. Understanding and being able to humanize these situations helps us prevent. Let's end on a high note. Now it's time for my weekly horror update. Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman are returning as witch sisters Sally and Jillian in Practical Magic 2. And the Witchy sisters have summoned the official release date for the sequel. Warner Bros. Will conjure the sequel to theaters in September of 2026. Al Pacino and Dan Stevens are exorcising demons in the upcoming horror movie The Ritual, which will be released exclusively in movie theaters on June 6th of this year. It's based on the true story of the possession of Emma Schmidt. They're saying that this is actually the story that started it all with our cult classic, The Exorcist. We have a fresh take on trauma cult classic, The Toxic Avenger, being released in theaters fully uncut and unrated on August 19th. Bloody Disgusting and Cineverse have saved Macon Blair's The Toxic Avenger from sitting on a shelf. It's been 2 years since it originally premiered with rave reviews at Fantastic Fest back in 2023. My shout out for this week, happy Mother's Day to all the horror moms out there. I hope your family scares you with how much appreciation they show for you this Sunday. Like so much that you're checking that they weren't replaced by some like body snatchers of some type. I also want to say happy Mother's Day to my own mother. Her name is Hilda. Mi madre. You raised me to be a very strong woman that, I have an iron will, and I don't take shit, and I'm a little crazy, just the way you raised me. Perfect. If you have a movie suggestion that could fit in the category of this month, you can email me at screamqueenpodcaster@gmail.com, and I will share your suggestions. You can also send me gift cards and Mother's Day gifts. I also appreciate Mother's Day gifts as well, because I am a mom. This is the weekly podcast with new episodes out every Thursday. All the research, writing, and audio is done by yours truly. This is a one-woman show, and I am doing my very best. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. It really means a lot, like for real. You can find me on Instagram at Scream Queen Podcast or Blue Sky at Scream Queen Podcast, TikTok at Scream Queen Podcast, and there's a link tree that will take you to my YouTube and Facebook page as well. Remember, listen to your parents or Llorona will come for you. Until next time, goodbye.